Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into the fascinating world of a plant you might actually have seen around, but trust me, there's a surprising amount to uncover. We're talking about Ceanothus Americanus.
Right, often called New Jersey tea.
Exactly. And our mission today is to explore its historical medicinal uses, specifically drawing from William Boericke's homeopathic Materia Medica.
Yeah, and that's a really valuable source.
For those who might not know, a Materia Medica is like a detailed handbook of remedies used in homeopathy, listing all the symptoms and conditions they were thought to address.
What's great about digging into a specific text like Boericke's, is you get a unique window into how these remedies were actually perceived and used traditionally.
Right.
It shows layers of really precise observation, knowledge that often gets missed in more general discussions.
Okay, so with that context, let's dive in. Boericke immediately points out New Jersey tea's, and I'm quoting here, specific relation to the spleen. What does that immediate focus suggest to you? What should we be thinking about its actions?
Well, that's the absolute starting point in the text. It's called a left-sided remedy generally.
Left-sided.
Yeah, meaning its effects or the conditions it treated were mainly seen on the body's left side. It was used for things like ague cake of malaria.
The cake.
Yeah, it's an old term for a severely enlarged spleen, something you'd see often in chronic malaria cases back then.
Okay.
And also for anemic patients where liver and spleen are at fault. So these descriptions really hammer home that its primary target was the spleen, especially when it was enlarged or not functioning right.
And Boericke gets really, really specific about those spleen symptoms, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking enormous enlargement of the spleen, splenitis, that's inflammation, right?
Right, inflammation of the spleen.
With pain all up the left side,
Yeah.
and even deep-seated pain in left hypochondria.
Which is that upper left part of the abdomen under the ribs.
Exactly. He also mentions hypertrophy of spleen, just meaning abnormal enlargement, and even its use in leukemia.
Which is quite a claim, linking it even to what we now understand as blood cancer.
And connecting this to how the patient actually felt.
Yes, the text notes patients were unable to lie on left side,
Oh.
and that their discomfort was worse motion lying on left side. It also mentions related pain in liver and back.
So it paints a pretty clear picture of the kind of suffering involved.
It really does. Specific physical signs that would point a practitioner towards this particular remedy.
But what I find really interesting is, okay, the spleen is clearly the main focus, but its uses weren't just about the spleen, were they?
No, not at all. It seems to have had other, perhaps less expected systemic effects too.
Like what?
Well, a really critical observation in the source is that Ceanothus americanus has marked blood pressure reducing powers.
Okay. Lowering blood pressure.
But also, it's described as an active hemostatic, materially reducing the clotting of blood.
Wait, so it lowers blood pressure and reduces clotting? That
Right.
seems kind of contradictory, or at least a complex action.
It is. That dual effect on the circulatory system is pretty remarkable for one plant remedy. Lowering pressure, but also potentially acting as a blood thinner.
That's fascinating. What else? Any other systems involved?
Well, he notes its use for chronic bronchitis with profuse secretion.
So lots of mucus.
Exactly. And other general symptoms like violent dyspnea, severe trouble breathing, it really had a range.
Okay, and what about like elimination, bowels, urine?
Yep, covered there too. It describes diarrhea bearing down in abdomen and rectum.
That feeling of pressure downwards.
And urinary symptoms included constant urging to urinate. The urine itself is described quite vividly. Green, frothy, contains bile, sugar.
Wow, green and frothy with bile and sugar noted.
Yeah, those specific details, especially bile and sugar in the urine, would have been huge clues for practitioners back then, suggesting maybe deeper issues, perhaps involving the liver or kidneys, not just the spleen.
So it's painting a picture of a remedy with a core focus but wider ripples.
Precisely.
Now, Boericke's Materia Medica, like many, talks about relationships.
Yes.
Right? Comparing remedies.
Yes, that's a key part of how these texts work.
How did that work in practice? How do they actually tell these things apart if they seem similar?
It was about nuanced comparison. Boericke compares Ceanothus americanus to others. For instance, Tinospora cordifolia.
Okay.
That's mentioned as a Hindu medicine for chronic cases of fever with enlarged spleen, so similar spleen focus.
Right.
Then there's Polymnia uvidalia, or bear's foot, also compared for acute splenitis with tenderness, spleen enlarged, ague cake. Very similar again.
So how is it different?
Well, polymnia comes with extra details like vascular eichene, meaning blood vessels losing tone and tissues being sodden, flabby, and non elastic.
So a different kind of tissue state.
Exactly. And polymnia is also said to influence all ductless glands, what we'd call endocrine glands now, so a potentially broader hormonal or glandular effect.
That's a subtle but important distinction.
Very. And Boericke even distinguishes between different Ceanothus species.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Ceanothus thriciflorus, the California lilac, is noted for totally different things. Pharyngitis, tonsillitis, nasal catarrh, diphtheria, used internally and as a gargle.
Wow. So a close relative, but used for throat and nasal issues, not the spleen primarily.
It really shows you the specificity they were working with. It wasn't just use this plant genus, it was about this specific species for these specific symptoms.
And were there other general comparisons for spleen stuff?
Yes, he lists a few others known for spleen conditions: Berberis, Myrica, Cedron, and Agaricus. These comparisons help practitioners build a mental map, really, placing each remedy in context based on its unique symptom picture and affinities.
That makes sense. It's like building a detailed toolkit. Okay, so we've covered the uses, the comparisons. What about the practical side? How is it actually prepared or used? Any surprises there?
Well, the source is specific about the dose. First, attenuation.
First, attenuation. What does that mean in practical terms?
In homeopathy, attenuation is a dilution process. First attenuation, often written as 1x, means it was diluted 1 part of the original substance in 9 parts diluent, so a 1 in 10 dilution. It indicates a pretty precise and actually quite low dilution level compared to some homeopathic preparations.
Okay, a specific preparation method. And you mentioned a surprise.
Yeah, this one's quite unexpected, I think. Aside from all the internal uses, Boericke notes one local application,
Which was
locally as hair tonic.
as a hair tonic. The spleen remedy.
That's what it says. It just makes you think, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
versatility and maybe the sort of trial and error that went into figuring out how these traditional remedies could be used. You wouldn't immediately connect a spleen remedy with hair care today.
No, you really wouldn't. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. This deep dive into Ceanothus Americanus has been, well, pretty illuminating. We've seen this really strong, specific historical link to the spleen, its power to affect blood pressure and clotting, according to Boericke, and the unexpected detour into hair tonic.
And I think if you step back and look at the bigger picture, what this really shows is the incredible level of detail and specific observation in these traditional materia medicas.
Right.
You have this single plant, Ceanothus Americanus, meticulously cataloged for a whole range of precise applications, all based on clinical experience and careful observation over time.
It definitely makes you wonder, doesn't it? It leaves us with a question, perhaps. How much more of this kind of detailed, nuanced knowledge about the natural world's potential is still sitting there, maybe, in these historical texts?
Yeah, just waiting for us to take another look, perhaps with fresh eyes, driven by modern curiosity.
A fascinating thought to end on.